Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
Hey, welcome back everybody to the Men Talking Mindfulness show. I'm retired Navy SEAL Commander John McCaskill, and I'm joined by my co-host, renowned New York City yoga instructor Will Schneider. Today, we're going to be talking about a deeply personal and crucial conversation. We're going to be talking about how to teach your children to navigate pain safely, and we're specifically going to be addressing the fentanyl crisis. And to cover this topic, we have the privilege of hosting April Capochino Myers, a seasoned journalist with over 2 decades of experience. She's an award-winning writer known for her insightful coverage in business, education, investigative reporting, and lifestyle. April has explored this topic through her impactful 9-part series, The Fentanyl Project, which combines rigorous journalism with the poignant perspective of a mother. Over and above this, I have a personal connection to April and her husband, Luke. Many of you guys know this about me. It was kind of broadcast on social media, and many of you actually helped. Back in 2020, my brother-in-law and Luke's fraternity brother, Ryan, was very near death due to COVID. And he spent over 6 weeks in the hospital, much of that time in a medically induced coma and on an ECMO machine. During that period of time, my sister and a mother of 2 and a full-time nurse was not able to work. And Luke and April helped to raise over $50,000 to help pay for everyday living expenses, hospital bills, and Ryan's oxygen concentrator. Over and above that, they were both there every step of the way with Ryan and my sister, providing emotional and spiritual support. So I'm very happy to have April joining us today.
Wow.
Thank you so much for being here with us, April. And I'm going to jump into some announcements, and then we'll start with our one breath practice that Will lead. Our only announcement is, hey, text MTM to 33777. I'm not even asking. I'm telling you to text MTM to 33777. There's the knife hand, right? The knife hand. And hey, when you do that, you're going to get a link. That link's going to tell you everything that we're in and everything that we're doing right now, including our May retreat, which we've just reduced the price of by $400. And Will and I are also going to be running a live virtual meditation course starting in April. So again, find out about all that by texting MTM to 33777. Over to you, Will.
All right. Well, hey, great to be here. April, thank you for joining us. John, good to see you. Hey, everyone that's listening and watching live right now, thank you for being here as well. One breath grounding practice is all it takes to kind of shift and get into the here and now. So let's empty the breath out, let it go all the way out. Really hit empty and pull the navel in and extinguish all that breath, and a big giant breath into the nose. Top it off and let it go. All right.
Nice.
All right. Let's jump in, guys.
Let's do it. Hey, I just want to address real quick before we went live. April and Will were talking about, what we could do to help everyone that we see struggling. And April addressed what she does when she gets out of her meditation. She kind of has a mantra, if you will, where she says, "What is mine to do?" And that kind of ties into what it is we're talking about. April, what is yours to do? And specifically, start telling us about your journey as a journalist, and then how has your experience shaped your approach to the topics that are not only newsworthy but deeply personal, like the Fentanyl Project.
Yes, so thank you so much. So I've been a journalist for 25 years, and I've covered pretty much everything. I covered 9/11, I've covered Hurricane Katrina, I've written stories for National Geographic Kids about animals across the world. And when I started this project, this came off of another project that I was working on about this group of older citizens in the city that were picking up trash. And I went out to pick up trash with them one day, and I was floored by the amount of time they were putting in. But they were picking up needles. And they were picking up needles. They told me they were picking up needles in like playgrounds and areas that children were in. And I was like, why? What are the needles from? And they said, fentanyl. And at that point I had heard about fentanyl, but I didn't really understand it, or I didn't know much about it. So from there, that was July of 2022. I decided I wanted to kind of do a deep dive into fentanyl and how it affects kids, because my daughter was in 8th grade and she was getting ready to go into high school the following year. And I was like, I remember being in high school and being offered drugs, and it's like marijuana is not our marijuana anymore. Like, it's laced with stuff. That's what I was starting to learn. So I started reporting and I started peeling back these layers, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and more scary. And I was like, how can I write this from a perspective of a parent, right? I wanted for parents to understand exactly what's out there and what is theirs to do, because we are not going to stop this stuff from coming into the country. We're not, as moms, unless you're in some sort of law enforcement or, any other jurisdiction kind of, that's the wrong word, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, how can moms and dads work on this? And so I wrote a 9-part series. I looked at the addiction. I looked at the addict. I interviewed a mom who had just lost her son a few months prior, I think a month prior to when I talked to her. I talked to somebody who really understood the brain and neuroplasticity and what parts of the brain addiction affects. I learned a lot about addiction. And then at the end of it, I was like, pain gets people into this, and pain prevents them from getting off of it. And I was like, okay, that I can do. So while I was doing that, I was in therapy, and I was also coming off of a life coach program. And I had the most amazing life coach who taught me about the brain and taught me about processing pain, because for all of us, it's uncomfortable. And she taught me about dirty pain and clean pain and all of these things. And I said, well, this I can learn, right? Like, this I can learn the language to. And then I can provide my kids with the tools of, look, if something's going on, let's talk about it and feel it and not try to numb it. Because I think we're in kind of a numbing society, and I think our dopamine levels are all over the place, right? So it's like we're just looking for that next kind of squirt of dopamine. And that is what I did. That's what I learned. I learned about processing pain. I learned about looking at pain as just a vibration in your body and letting it pass through, and trying to teach my kids how to do that too, and not fixing everything for them. I think that's hard as parents. You don't want to see your kids suffer.
Yeah.
But I started to shift my mindset a little bit, and I was like, what's it going to look like if they suffer? If they go through something really hard, it's going to look like, on the other end of that, self-confidence. It's going to look like they can, they learn that it passes. If I'm constantly fixing, or if I'm teaching them to numb it, they're not going to know how to deal with it.
Right.
So that's what happened. That entire project led me to that last part in the series, the conclusion, where I was like, oh, boom, this is what I can do.
I gotta ask you, the dirty pain versus clean pain. I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
Yeah,
I wasn't either. Okay, so I have to give a shout out to my coach, Alana Israel, who I'm still working with. She has a podcast called Partnership Align, and she works closely with married couples and then just with like moms. So she taught me that dirty pain is the judgment pain. It's the shame that we all feel when something happens. And to be able to like get to that clean pain, you almost have to sift through the dirty pain, because the dirty pain is dirtying up the clean pain. The clean pain is just those core emotions, right? You're disappointed that something didn't go the way it was supposed to go. You're grieving because you lost somebody. The dirty pain is assigning shame, or saying I shouldn't feel this way, or this hurts too much. So that is what I was feeling a lot as a parent, right? I would yell at my kids, and then I'd be like, I'd beat myself up over it. Yep. And then have to sift through that to get to the other stuff. But that takes a lot of sitting with uncomfortable emotions and a lot of grace, which I had to learn.
Yeah.
So teaching my kids that, right? Like, my daughter went through something, and she just was like, I just feel terrible. Like, I stood up to a friend, and I was like, yeah, of course. Like, it hurts. Like, you did something that was uncomfortable. And she's like, but I think I hurt her feelings. I'm embarrassed by that. So to teach her, like, yeah, the embarrassment part is part of that pain, right? That's that dirty pain. The uncomfortable thing is you stood up. That's okay. It's okay to stand up to people if you do it in a loving way.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that referred to as like the first, second, and third arrows. Like, the first arrow is the arrow that shoots you for like the actual pain that you're experiencing. And then the second arrow is the arrow that you shoot at yourself for experiencing that pain. And then the third arrow and everything. So from there, but I've never heard it referred to as dirty or clean pain. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's really helped me. And I've shot so many arrows at myself. I think we all have, right? It's human nature just to be like, there's something wrong with me. And there's really nothing wrong with any of us. We're just all kind of going through it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pain is part of the, and the pain we're really speaking about in this context, and numbing this pain is emotional pain. Right. And that is at the core of our human experience is emotions. And some emotions are going to be very challenging. Like you mentioned your daughter, like having a difficult time at school and standing up for herself. And it's just like, and working through that. And then the second arrow or the dirty pain is like, the guilt or the shame or whatever is coming up. But I mean, we seem to have this, and this has been going on for forever. Probably a large part of the human condition has been trying to numb that emotional pain. But what things have gotten really bad, so alcohol is obviously one, and weed and other kind of medicines or drugs, that do this. But then fentanyl came onto the scene, and I didn't realize how incredibly deadly fentanyl is, and also how incredibly potent fentanyl is. I have down here, it's I think it's 100 times more than methadone or not methadone, but or not methane. That's a gas, right? Sorry,
you can get there. We can get there.
Yeah, we can get there.
Was it oxy or hydrocodone?
Yeah, oxy.
Yeah.
So there's fentanyl available in the United States is primary supply. No, that's not the one I wanted. Okay, fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, and the actual opioid is comes from an organic poppy plant. Right, so synthetic, right? We mentioned before we went live, it's like, you can cook it anywhere, just like kind of meth in Breaking Bad, right? It's 50 times more potent than heroin, which is pretty fucking potent, right? 100 times stronger than morphine.
Oh, wow.
And this is according to the drug, the DEA and the CDC. And it's like more than 70,000 people have died from fentanyl-related overdoses in the United States in 2021, according to data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. It's awful. And as you went down this path and started to, talk to these mothers, what are some of the things that really surprised you as you begin to kind of uncover those layers of how fentanyl is impacting our children and impacting our society?
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, if you take it once and it's the wrong amount, you could die. Like, we didn't have that growing up, right? There was people that experimented with drugs, and it could hurt you, but this is like could kill you the first time. Right. So when I spoke to the mom of her son was in his 20s when he died. Jeez. It was like, and there's no repercussions for it. There's no legal repercussions for fentanyl poisoning. I think there's starting to be some legislation that's being passed. But these, the drug dealers that are giving it, sometimes they don't even know what's in it, right? So if you get it from your drug dealer and you don't know what's in it, my thing was like, if it's passed along and then some kid at a party shows up with a pill and they don't know, it just looks like a Xanax or whatever they're taking. I don't know. And again, I'm not naive. I know that kids are going to do this. Right. But it was just like, she was like, I just didn't think he was going to die. Like, I knew he had a drug problem, but I just didn't think he was going to die. And he ended up dying behind Hobby Lobby. Oh, my gosh. In a very, very populated part of town. I mean, he just died with like a needle in his arm, and it's just so heartbreaking to think of what his life would have been. And that's the hardest part for her. It's just like thinking about where he would have been if that one dose hadn't done that. Sure. And then I think the other issue, and Will, I know that you read the whole series, was like, there's not a whole lot of help that can take care of this type of addiction, because insurance only covers, I think it was like 60 days or something. I have to go back, but there's just not a ton of long-term help, and it takes your brain a really long time to go get back online. And in that time, you're dealing with, extended amounts of like dope sick type of physical reactions, like the flu times 1,000. And it's so hard, and then they just go back on it. So seeing all of that and seeing a mom go through that, I just couldn't even imagine, And then when he was off of it, he was great. He was like lifting weights and he was taking care of himself. And he was eating salmon and chicken and all the things. And then he'd go right back on it and he'd end up begging for money, near the interstate. And it was heartbreaking to see this. And they were a very, they had resources. This was a family that had resources. So I just think of families that don't have resources.
Right. Yeah. You talk about in your reporting of how also the system is broken as well.
Yeah.
Like how, the laws, they're not even, some of these, all your reporting is done East Baton Rouge, which is, I think you mentioned, one of the highest mortality rates around fentanyl in the country. And the agencies that are kind of taking care of these people and bringing people into these clinics, like they're not even communicating in a proper way in order to like really serve this population the best they possibly can. So there's also not only do we have this drug in our society that just has a massive impact because of how deadly it is, but there's also the policy around these drugs is just not even benefiting the community at all, and it just seems to be ignored in some ways, instead of being like, we got a major problem here. If we have, hundreds of thousands of deaths every year in the United States just because there's one particular drug.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you look at the prison system and how that's laid out,
right.
And you have people that are imprisoned for dealing or taking drugs or having drugs on them. And I'm not sure that's the right place, but we don't have any sort of ginormous rehabilitation center. So, yeah, the system's definitely broken. And I don't think it's, my reporting was here in East Baton Rouge Parish, but I think it's probably similar across the country.
Right.
And the people that are really working hard are working hard. But you have policy changes, you have administration changes, you have a lot of politics and a lot of red tape. And oftentimes the people that are at the bottom of that really need the help don't get it. So that's what I found in my reporting.
Yeah.
Did you watch Painkillers on Netflix by chance?
Sick. I watched everything.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched that second one, but I watched Painkillers, and I know that's based on OxyContin.
Yes,
and everything
which started this whole thing.
Yeah,
the Shackler family.
Yeah, right.
Purdue Pharma.
And Will used to work in the pharma industry, ironically.
Yeah, did you?
6 years. I did. Not as a rep, not as a pusher.
Yeah.
Okay, but as a maker, right?
And I also want to be clear, I benefit from pharma, but there's certain aspects of pharma that can be dangerous, specifically like the politics and some of the money that's there. But I want to come back to the Painkiller movie or series. At the beginning of each episode, they showed a family who has lost a loved one, and I think all of them were parents who had lost a child, if I remember correctly. And I'm going to have to admit my ignorance here. So Oxy is coming, or it was coming from Big Pharma. Where is fentanyl actually coming from?
Fentanyl, according to my research and the reporting that I've done, is coming from parts of the ingredients are coming from China, coming from Russia, and then a lot of it's made in Mexico, and then they bring it over the border.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's not made here. It is, but it's very, very, it's much easier to make there. And then there's a whole documentary about this that you could watch, but it's packaged, the way that they package it and ship it over, and then with the borders being open is a whole other issue. But that's where most of it's coming from. So it's not just it's ingredient combined, made somewhere else. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I honestly, I've heard of it, but I had no idea where it actually comes from.
What impacts the kids even worse is you talk about the rainbow fentanyl. So John, they package them like Skittles. Yeah. So there's multicolor packages. It's why not take a little purple pill? It looks pretty cool. And then it's laced with fentanyl, and the probability of you dying is pretty freaking high. So it's just it's even more nefarious when they begin to color these things in order to trick kids into taking them.
Sure, that's what.
Yeah, because if you hook them, they're hooked forever, right?
Yeah,
and it's
just
cheap.
like heroin.
It's super cheap. Yeah, exactly. But heroin, so OxyContin was being prescribed at an enormous rate, right?
Sure.
And then there was some regulation that came in. And interestingly, the company that created OxyContin created Narcan.
Yeah,
which
Purdue
revives,
Pharma.
which blows my mind. But anyway, so then
sorry, I'm gonna real quick. Narcan, so again, I'm totally ignorant in this space. So
that's okay. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Will. You know about
No. Narcan is the kind of the anti-drug to an overdose. So and it's also, I mean, most of I heard right. I heard that in the city, and I live in New York and other cities as well, most of the calls for like an ambulance or EMT is for overdose, and they give Narcan almost every other visit to a house, right? Narcan. That's how much it's being used, and that's how much the overdose problem is happening.
And
when
Narcan
the same
does,
company. It just there's like 3 different makers of different types of like Narcan. I think and Purdue Pharma makes one. There's one that you can inject. You can do the nose, and then I forget the other one. The spray, So there's different ways to administer a drug that like literally just counteracts the effects immediately and you wake up.
Yes,
I
so they
don't know
have
what's in it.
cases of this stuff, right?
Right.
Which we're paying, like that's a taxpayer cost. So the company that created the problem created the solution. And to me, that's mind blowing, right?
Yeah.
But what's happening is it's taxing these, it's taxing our EMS because they're going out on multiple calls. At least that's what I found in my reporting here, is that they would go out and they would Narcan somebody, and then they'd go back out and Narcan the same person.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And it was just like a revolving door. So, there was so much of this happening, and it creates the stress on the EMS workers and on the whole department.
Well, it also takes them away from other emergencies that they could be reacting to, right?
Exactly. Well, let me just say also, I like numbers. So I think it was 2022, your report, April, that there were over 300,000 calls just in this little community in East Baton Rouge for overdose. So that's like, think about it, that's like almost 100 calls a day, right? For overdose, or like, is that, right. I mean, that is just in 1 year. That's how many people, that's how many times they're going out, and how they also, April so brilliantly reports, it's like, how is that sucking up the resources, right? Not just, and the time of taking care of other situations like this, all because of fentanyl.
What was the overall number that you said? 300,000?
300,000.
So that's
in 1 year.
Right.
That's almost 1,000 a day.
Oh yeah.
That is
I think
insane.
that's correct. Is that right, April? I'm almost positive.
I would have to go back and pull up the story. I didn't. I pulled up the pain part. I didn't pull up the other parts. But that sounds about right. And I think what I wanted to show too in the reporting is that every single piece of this puzzle, and I use puzzle in my graphics. My son helped me with those. But every puzzle piece, once you look at it and they fit, it's a huge. Fentanyl's not just affecting this piece, right? It's affecting everything. And it was draining our resources. I mean, on the way, and I do remember writing this in the story, on the way to go interview the director of EMS, the public relations guy, there was a man that was like passed out under the interstate, and I thought he was dead. So I called to report that. I think it was an overdose, as I'm on my way to interview him about that story. And I was like, this is insane, right? This is just bananas. So I mean, it affects everybody. And interestingly, like this, I started doing this reporting in July, and I finished up the last piece in November. And around October, I was talking about this ad nauseum. Like my husband and kids were like, "Oh my gosh, we get it, right?" I'm like, "Don't take anything, blah blah blah." And they were getting ready to trick or treat. And when they came home, they didn't want to eat any of their candy because they were like,
"Oh yeah, I bet.
Is there fentanyl in it?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I ruined my kids." Yeah. So teaching them, to be cautious but not being scared was also something I leared.
Well, let's talk about
to have the information.
The teaching piece, and I've got to start with this, kind of funny piece, just to lighten the mood here a little bit. But my wife Becca and I were joking that we've got 3 kids, and there's this meme or whatever, a reel on Instagram the other day, and there's this, it shows a first-time dad, and the dad's like, "Oh, don't do that, you're gonna hurt yourself. Don't do that, you're gonna hurt yourself." And then the second child, it's like he's scrolling through his phone, he's like, "Don't do that, you're gonna hurt yourself." And then the third kid comes along, and he's like, "Watch this, he's gonna hurt himself."
That's exactly it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where we're at with our third kid. We certainly don't want her to hurt herself, but we're not as protective. Now that said, we certainly as parents don't want our children to hurt themselves, or if they are hurting, be it physically or emotionally. How do you suggest parents start the conversation about addressing pain for our children?
I think asking them like, hey, like, how are you feeling? And then if they're like, fine, okay, and then you just say, well, if you need to talk. But sometimes they'll give you the idea like, I'm not, something's bothering me. And I always say, I have a teenager, she'll be 15 next week. And I say, do you want me to listen or do you want advice? And 99% of the time she just wants me to listen. So we talk about it. She talks about it. And then I say something like, that's hard. That's so hard, right? Or like if it's anxiety, she has a lot of anxiety. Like, wow, yeah, those anxious thoughts are really, really hard. What do you think they're trying to tell you? Like I try to just like normalize what you're feeling and then just break it down one by one. I use this acronym all the time for myself that I've often used with her. It's called RAIN, where it's like recognize, acknowledge. Yeah, Tara Brach uses it. So you recognize, acknowledge, investigate, and nurture, which seems so woo-woo for me to like give myself a hug, but it's so important, right?
It is.
And then just kind of like peeling it back and just sitting there with it a little bit. Like, well, yeah, that's you feel uncomfortable because somebody said something to you that hurt your feelings. Yeah. Is that your truth? No, but it still hurts. Well, just sit with it for a minute. It's a vibration. They pass, right? Feelings aren't facts, which is what I'm constantly trying to teach them and myself.
Sure.
Because feelings feel really big, but it's just your body letting you know, like something happened and what do I need to do right now? Do I need to self-protect? Do I need to breathe? Do I need to get out of here? I mean, I think we have this like primal part of our brain that still feels like we're back in the dinosaur age, right?
For sure.
And it hasn't really evolved. And like, we're not surrounded by dinosaurs. We're surrounded by, scary news and that draws the same
media.
Type of emotion. Social media. Yeah. I'm not on social media anymore, really.
Good for you.
I mean, I check it during work, but yeah, thank you. It didn't make me feel
I'm
good.
not on it anymore. I check it during work.
I check it for work. Well, I have to do social media for work.
Okay, check it for work, not during work.
For work, not during work. No. But I stopped because I was like, this is making me feel miserable.
Yeah.
Like it's
oh my
tapping
gosh.
into everything that feels bad.
Yeah.
As an investigative reporter, I stopped watching the news.
Oh, I don't watch the news.
I mean, but what are you watching? You know what I mean? Like, you're right. I mean, I'm saying like, right. I mean, what news are you actually watching? Like, it's so curated,
exactly.
it's so manipulated.
It is totally manipulated.
And I feel like I understand what they're doing, right? But if you don't understand the background of that, you think that's all true, or you're in your echo chamber thinking it's true. And I couldn't do it anymore. I honestly, after this piece, I took a little bit of a break because I was it really, really, affected me. So I try just to normalize what they're going through, honestly, and just to say this is part of it. Sometimes it's hormones, right? They're growing up.
Sure.
Sometimes it's the fact that they don't have a prefrontal cortex that's developed, that decision part of their brain. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just not developed yet.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different factors.
I don't think mine is fully developed yet.
It's not, John. I've been around you enough, and my diagnosis is like, maybe a couple more years, John. I don't know, just kidding.
But real quick, before you even jumped on, April, Will and I were talking, and he's, the standard greetings. Hey man, how you doing? And Will's always good about asking how you're doing instead of just jumping into business. I'm pretty bad about just jumping straight into business. But he asked, how you doing? And when I was driving into work this morning, I try to think of myself as a fairly positive person and acknowledging feelings at the same time. But this morning when I was driving into work, I was just down, and I could not explain it to myself. I'm like, why am I feeling this? But at the same time, now that we're having this conversation, I think I know exactly where it comes from. Last night, my 7-year-old daughter just had a little breakdown, like not an angry breakdown, she was just crying, and we're like, what's wrong? And she said, I've just had a hard day. A 7-year-old, right? Yeah. And she was crying, and as a man, there's a big part of me that just wants to come in and fix it. And I know better, thankfully, and I just let her express it. My wife let her express it, but I think it affected me, and I think that's why I was down. And this conversation is very timely. So I appreciate your mentioning what you've talked about here so far, and then coming back to where we were in the cavewoman days to protect ourselves from the saber-toothed tigers and whatever else.
Yes.
We have the negativity bias naturally built into us.
Right.
Yeah,
I guess there weren't dinosaurs back then. Sorry.
Well, yeah, whatever. Saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah.
I don't even know if there were saber-toothed tigers, but whatever.
I don't know either.
There were definitely threats out there, right?
Yes.
And today, what we perceive as threats, we're actually looking for threats all the time.
Right.
That's to safeguard us, to protect us, so that we can live ourselves and so that we can propagate the species. But in not having the threats around, we actually look and we perceive these other things as threats. We perceive social media as threats. We perceive traffic as a threat. We perceive email or a new deadline at work as threats. And that's actually causing some of this emotional pain that we're looking to address and looking to numb through alcohol, through whatever other means. So anyway, I don't have a question there, but I just wanted to kind of address some of the things that you had brought up. Will, I'll turn it over to you for next question if you got one.
Oh, well, yeah, I just want to clarify something I said earlier about all those calls, right? Actually, the number, what I said was incorrect. One number was incorrect, but as it relates to fentanyl, it was incorrect. So actually in Baton Rouge, a call center, they received 350,000 calls in 2021 for 911 calls, and almost 72,000 were EMS related for fentanyl.
Overdose. Okay, good. I'm glad you know that because I have not looked at that part of it. I
have it all.
You're
here.
pulling it up. Okay.
I have it all here.
I need to pull it up.
Still
a lot of calls though, right?
Yeah, it is. It's still 1,000 calls a day. I mean, close to, and that's just there in East Baton Rouge, which is insane. Well, I'll jump in with a question. So, coming back to talking to your children about the pain that they're experiencing. Can you specifically address if you are aware that your child is using some type of chemical, some type of medicine, some type of drug, whatever we want to call it, to address this pain, to numb the pain? What are some strategies that we as adults, as parents, can use to, one, talk to them about that, and then two, give them some type of healthy coping mechanism?
So you're talking like before they would use?
No, I mean probably both. Yeah, one before, like the just say no campaign. We all know didn't work. As a matter of fact, I think that might have highlighted the hey, well, why should I say no to this? What's so weird about it? But what should we do? One, to maybe keep them from trying to numb their pain specifically with chemicals, and then two, if they are, how do we address it with them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I could speak on that second part just because I don't have the background in dealing with somebody who's on any sort of chemical dependence, but I do know that I know with kids, like, you see the warning signs before, right? And I think being tapped into understanding what they're going through, you're going to see it. They might not talk to you about it, but you're going to see it. So I think being present, being a present parent who is like, I always think of it as like being a lighthouse. Like my daughter for a long time was in the waves with friends and I was in it with her, and she would get out and be fine. And I'm still in there like, what's going on? And I just envisioned myself getting out of all of that and just being the lighthouse. So having the light on, being present, creating some sort of family time where you're talking about things, right? Because sometimes it comes out sideways in weird times. A lot of the time for us, it came out at night where she's like, hey, you want to just like come lay with me for a second? And I'm like, I just want to go to bed, but that's that parallel side by side is when she would talk to me. When we were in the car and she didn't have to look directly at me is when she would talk to me. With my son, it was throwing a baseball. So just being available and present for them, I think, is the most important part, because you're going to see that the behavior shift. Like, and I'm not experiencing that. I mean, fingers crossed right now, but this parent that I interviewed saw it. He he changed schools and he started smoking weed, and then the weed turned into something else, which turned into something else. And he had zero self-confidence. She said he was very, very insecure about being kicked out of his high school, and his friend group changed.
Sure.
That's another thing. These friend groups that kids have, I don't remember having an actual friend group. I think I was just kind of friends with a bunch of different people, but they have very specific friend groups, and you want to know who your kids are hanging out with. You don't have to be up in it, but just, get an understanding of them. Make your house somewhere that they want to come to, right? Like we have an outdoor refrigerator, and it's always filled with water and popsicles because there's kids coming and going on their bikes. And I'm like, I want them to feel welcome. I want them to come into our house and know they can use the bathroom and know, like come and go. And my daughter's friends, like I want them to want to be here.
Yeah.
So
nice.
I think creating that, I taught my daughter, if you're ever at a party or something where you're uncomfortable, like we have a secret emoji that she'll send me, and I can call her, and then she can blame it on me, right? Like my mom's being so overprotective. I don't care. I don't want to be the cool mom, Yeah. So there's different strategies you can use, but I found being present, and that's another reason I got off social media. I would just like doom scroll all the time because you're right, our brains are hardwired. But the happier the parent and the more, the healthier the parent, I feel like the more the kids are going to be comfortable talking to you about things. They're smart. Kids know. They pick up on things.
I mean, so that just ultimately comes to, the name of the show, Men Talking Mindfulness. And mindfulness is presence, being present with your kids. And even as a mindfulness teacher and a practitioner, I find myself on my phone, again, mostly for work. Like I'm trying to promote what it is we're doing for the show, promote whatever. But my 7-year-old would call me out on it. She's like, Dad, get off your phone. And I'm trying to do this thing while also talking to her. And that's the exact opposite of mindfulness. And I'm sure that's going to have an effect on our children is not just their being on the phone, but they're seeing us on the phone when they're trying to address something that they feel is important. Now that what they feel is important might not be what we feel is important. Like my 5-year-old son telling me about, something that happened in preschool today. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, that's really not important. But to him, it's important. And it's important for me to show that it's important to him. Right.
Yeah. And it's important for your cup to be full, right? So like self-care, which we talk about a lot in this country. Yeah. And I mean, you guys talk about it all the time, but when I learned how to meditate, and I learned meditation didn't have to be sitting on the floor with my legs crossed. Like I learned I could just kind of like sit in a chair for 10 minutes and put some music on. It changed my life because it just allowed me to slow down, and we're so fast.
Oh yeah.
And our kids are so fast, and our society is so fast. And knowledge is great. We can get knowledge like that, but we need time to just sit. And our kids don't know how to be bored.
Right. So oh my gosh, I talk about that all the time.
Yes. It's like we have this thing where we're just like, you have to be happy all the time, and you have to be
stimulated.
And like we really don't. Like I always tell my kids, I'm like, oh, I'm bored. I'm like, well, boring people are bored. Are you a boring person? No, then go be bored. It's okay. It's okay. That's where the good ideas happen.
Boredom is awesome.
Yeah. Well, you're speaking to shameless plug here. We have our meditation course starting on April 9th, and that sounds like a fantastic advertisement for what meditation could do for you, right? And you can understand that whole thing about being bored, because meditation really makes a big difference to people's lives. I mean, you just said it impacts, like what a difference to step back, gain perspective, understand yourself emotionally, consciously, physically, understand your relationships to yourself, to things, to other people. Like it's just such an incredible gift when you just stop and just take a very objective view about what's important to you, and what's triggering you. So I'm gonna jump on that shameless. Thank you. Shameless plug.
It's not selfless. Shameless. Shameless plug. We're talking about navigating pain. We're not talking about numbing pain. We're talking about navigating pain, and that is something that mindfulness and meditation can do for you. Is you accept the pain, you're curious about it, you sit with it, as April said before, And that can help to navigate the pain. Again, not necessarily numb it, but navigate it. And the only way, what is it? The only way out is through, right? Well,
it's through. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because if not, it sits in your body, and that's where, you can get sick. You can get really sick from that.
Yeah.
In 2014, my Luke's dad committed suicide, which we openly talk about. We told our kids a couple weeks ago. Actually, we hadn't told them, and thankfully we had the tools and we're healthy enough that we could talk about it. But that sat in both of our systems for a really long time. We did not know how to navigate that. Talk about dirty pain, right? There's so much shame that comes along with having a loved one that
what could I have done? What should I have done? Yeah.
So I just think the more tools you have and the healthier you are, you're going to be able to show up for your kids. Now, I will say there's times I don't have the tools for my kids. Or there's times where I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And I say to them, I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to try, but I'm probably going to make mistakes. Or I yell and I'm like, I'm really sorry I yelled. This is why I yelled. There's no excuses, but, and I think that's part of being human too. And then you're teaching them grace. For yourself and for them,
Well, for the parents who are listening, you got to give yourself grace, because there's no class to learn how to parent, and the whole time that you're parenting and your kids look up to you and think that you know it all, you're learning at the same time, right? You're learning at the same time as they are, and that's something that, coming back to dirty pain. I do the same thing. Like I'll screw up as a parent, I'll screw up as a dad, and then I'll beat myself up, and then I'm like, you know what? This is my first time parenting. And sometimes I still look at myself as a kid. I'm like, man, I haven't I still feel like I'm still in high school, and I'm like, what in the world? How can I possibly be entrusted with kids?
Yeah, true.
But I am.
And I think even if you don't have kids, like learning to give yourself grace. You
for
talked
sure.
about those arrows.
Yeah,
it's just so important, and it feels weird. Like, even if you're talking to yourself in the mirror, like, I'm sorry, like, we got this. It feels very bizarre, but at the end of the day, the only person you can control is yourself. So learning how to really fill your bucket and fill your spiritual and emotional self will help you.
And also when you do that, like, you become like you used the word beacon before, you become a beacon of composure, and you make it realize like that because you're have some more self-mastery and more composure, it's like, and you're showing up in situations like that in your community and in society, it's like, you let people know that that's possible. Like, it's okay, you can be calm, you don't have to be reactive all the time. And but it takes, but that's, one way to kind of help people a little bit. It's just like, not being afraid to just be who you are. And if you have that composure, it's just like, it's so infectious. It's contagious in a lot of ways. But I have a question, like, you've done, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go for it, April.
I was gonna say, there's that quote by Viktor Frankl. Have you heard it? Like, between the stimulus and the response is that space.
Yeah.
And in that space is my space used to be so short, right? My fuse was short. And as I get healthier, and there's some days it still is, but there's other days where I'm like, I'm sitting in that space. So that reminded me of it.
Yeah,
I'm reaching over because I've literally got search for meaning right there.
Great book. Like, that's a really phenomenal. I mean, it's like, God, that first. I didn't realize how incredibly horrible, like those first 30 pages. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But like, it's just a great book about the human condition and how the mind and everything. It's just so incredibly powerful for the human experience. But April, like, you've done a lot of research on this, and not just like talking to families and their impact and their sad circumstances with people that are having problems with drug addiction and fentanyl and stuff like that. But you also really dug deep into the communities. And what would be your message to the communities around this particular crisis? And also highlighted in your work, like, several heroes that are out in there, like on the the front line of this, really making some deep inroads and helping to solve this crisis. So what would be that message for the community in order to kind of rally around this, to uplift the community instead of it being destroyed by this fentanyl crisis?
I would say I would really encourage all communities just to learn about it, like, understand where it comes from, understand how Your loved ones can get a hold of it, understand the effects of it. The scariest part for me was that addiction, once you become addicted to this, it takes over your brain. And then you really have no control, right? It's a mental health, it's a brain disease, really, that we're not treating like a brain disease in our country. That's a whole other story. But I would just say to learn about it and just to have those talks with your family. Like the change starts in your own backyard, right? And a lot of the times that's your family or your neighborhoods or whatever. I mean, we've had some. The other thing was that the coroner came to our school, to my son's school, and talked about this because
the coroner.
The coroner. I know. So that's where, and that's another part where I was like, what is happening? Why am I here? And they passed around Narcan and they passed around the vapes, which I didn't know. So I would say encouraging the people that are doing the work to come into places where they might not know about it, right?
Right.
And just, I think the more information and the more knowledge, the more people are going to understand it. And you don't have to be afraid of it. You just have to understand what you can control and what you can't control.
Love it.
And I think really, again, doing the emotional work, understanding that pain is a part of life, right? You talked about the negativity bias. Learning that was a light bulb moment. I was like, there's nothing wrong. I'm not broken. My brain's just set up this way.
Right.
Like, it was awesome.
Love it.
And then just working on your family. We do a lot of gratitude in our family because that's a way for me to like shift my mind, like to just be like, okay, 10 things, April, right now, or like I do a lot of like, I'm here right now, might be where your feet are, because I'm in my head all the time. So I'm never grounded. So I think really just doing the work as a family, as a community, talking to people. We don't talk to people in person as much as we do. I mean, I'm just as guilty of that. I'd rather be home by myself than out there socializing, right? But we need to do more of that. Like we really do. And I forced myself to do a lot more of that.
Yeah, I'm laughing, not because I'm laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because I'm the same way. I am a huge introvert. I am pegged, INTJ, or on the Myers-Briggs. Right. On the I piece, I am pegged all the way. So hanging out with a whole lot of people, not my thing.
Wow.
I like big talk. I don't like small talk. So I get very uncomfortable when I have to like navigate a lot of people. Yeah. But
instead of pointing fingers at like, oh, it's their fault or it's over there. It's like, this could be, this crisis that we have right now in our across the country. I mean, could be a galvanizing force to help unite us around something that's very important. Like, when we get, when you start messing with the kids, everyone's like, whoa, we've gone way too far. So and that's where it starts, like getting mindful, becoming aware of, what the things you're talking about. It's like passing around Narcan, understanding, I didn't understand. Now I'm like more definitely informed about like how incredibly powerful fentanyl is and like, and what it does. And then that it is synthetic, that it could just easily be made anywhere, right. And distributed very easily in very, forms that can be easily consumed. And it's like, wow.
Right.
It's like, awareness is where it starts, where it always starts. And I think we can really make some changes here. But it starts within the family. It starts with, the individuals within the family. But then, if you can protect your family, but if your neighbors are all, clueless and ignorant, then it's like, then the problem just persists, So getting out in the family or getting out in the community and creating awareness is a huge gain, big gain.
I think too, that one piece we didn't talk about yet is anxiety, which I know you guys talk a lot about, right? And I think, I feel like we're more anxious than ever. I don't know if we always were, maybe as kids, and like our parents just didn't, I don't know. I'm Generation X, so I feel like I raised myself with like a hose and a metal lunchbox. Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't, but I just wonder if like, if we could start normalizing anxiety and not like understanding that there's a reason we're feeling that way and not being so scared of it and wanting to get rid of it, because that's a lot of the kids that were dying for a while that I was seeing in the news were just taking like what they thought were Xanax.
Oh man.
Which is a benzo, which really is like terrible too. But I'm curious to know. I guess I'm going to turn it back on you. So what do you guys think about how to combat anxiety or how to not even combat, but how to deal with anxiety with kids?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am not against medication. I think there are times that medication are or can be helpful. I do believe that they are often overprescribed, and even not just the numbers, but the amount of the particular medication. But I'm certainly no expert in that space, but that's just that's my opinion.
Yeah.
I have been on various medications myself for anxiety, for depression, for mood control, and I think that the world that we're living in today is certainly not the world that we were meant to be living in, right? I think that we've got so many stimuli out there. We are being bombarded with more than the belief the brain is capable of handling alone without any help. Now that help, what that help looks like, it could be medication, it could be meditation with a T instead of a C, it could be getting out and exercising, it could be going for a walk, it could be there's a whole lot of things, it could be all of them combined, whatever the case is. And then I think, coming back to what you said, the kind of the dirty pain, if you will, don't judge yourself for having these feelings of anxiety and depression. And it's just that they are feelings. Don't identify yourself as an anxious person. I mean, you may experience anxiety higher or less frequently than someone else, but that doesn't necessarily make you identified as anxious. We're experiencing that anxiety.
Right.
I saw somebody, I forget, Greg Van Dyne, he's a former Green Beret, but he's in the mental health space now. And I forget where it was, but there was he lives in the Netherlands now. And there's an expression for anxiety where they're living. And it's not, I am anxious, but anxiety is on me.
Yes.
Depression is on me right now.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I love that.
Great.
I think
Yeah,
that's a way
anytime you use those I am statements, like I was talking to somebody the other day, and like a younger guy, and he was talking about his friend and having trouble. We just got into this like really quick conversation, before I was going to the bathhouse to do a little schwitz and to calm down and release my anxiety. But like I do shit, I don't take medication. I do definitely smoke some cannabis, but it's not like for anxiety. It's just to, I don't know, be a little more creative or something, get a little high, boy, don't suffer for that one. But he was talking about his friend, and she says, and she prescribing to herself, she's like, oh, I have social anxiety. And that was like a blanket statement for like all the problems that she kind of has or the difficulty they're having in a relationship. Like anytime that you use that I am statement, you begin to put a label right on top of yourself and you begin to activate that feeling inside of you. Right. Or it's like, hey, I am, I'm healthy. I'm grateful. Like you can also use those I am statements in the other way to kind of rescue yourself out, but also reprogram yourself into a way that you want to be. To come back to like, letting go of anxiety, like, for anybody, get out and play. Like John said, get out and move like that. I mean, if that's not working, then maybe you should be seeking some, professional help or something like that. Or maybe you should seek professional help anyway.
On top of it. Yeah.
But on top of it. Right. But like, I don't know if medication, I'm not necessarily against it either. I mean, it's definitely over prescribed in this country for sure. The pharmaceutical companies are making that killing. But like, that's not going to, like, I would exhaust all your resources. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? How much are you exercising every day? How much are you breathing? Like, what are you doing in order to self-regulate on a regular basis every single day? What is your relationship to your phone, to your technology? Like you talked, April, about like your, about your letting go of social media. Maybe you need to check in with that. Because I mean, they've shown again and again and again how incredibly anxiety-inducing all that social media is. And kids, like we talked, they don't have that executive function. They don't have that ability until after they're 25 in order to make proper decisions for themselves. So they can suffer even deeper from FOMO and all these like who they should be and seeing all these different expressions of other people in social media. And there's like, oh, I should be like that. And it's
I mean, even something as simple as like how many followers do you have?
Right.
All that
versus
stuff,
your
right.
friends. Yeah,
And that's anxiety. It's like, oh God, I suck because I don't, I only have 15,000 followers. I'm like, oh my God, right?
I know,
but it's valid.
It's so hard to explain to a kid, right? So I would say that stuff all the time, and my kids are like, "Shut up!" I'm like, get off the devices." My daughter didn't get a phone until we had gotten rid of our home phone, and we got we called it the red phone. It was a cell phone for the house. So if we went out or something, it was there, and then when she went out, it was there, and then it slowly turned into hers, right? So I don't remember. I think it was like 7th grade. It was too early. It ended up just being hers. And my son wants one, and I'm like, absolutely not. And they don't get any devices during the week, but they're on their computers because everything for school is on the computer. They're on their iPads. And, there's times where they're like, I have a headache. And I'm like, well, of course you have a headache. You looked at your iPad all day. You don't have books anymore. And they're like, no, it's not linked.
Oh my gosh, it is.
So I've started just modeling it. Like, they're not going to listen to my words, but more is caught than taught is what, so I'm just like, okay, I'm going to model it, right? So I just put it away at night. It's away. And if I'm on it, they totally call me out. So I know they're catching it.
Yeah.
But going back to that, and again, I am not against prescribed drugs either. I was on antidepressants for a little bit in college. What I am against is kids not understanding what they're taking, like at parties, like just being given stuff, right? That's what freaks me out, because they're being marketed as something that couldn't hurt them, and then there's fentanyl in it and enough to kill them. So that's the part I have an issue with. Right. But the self-efficacy part, I think, is if you can teach your kids how to navigate anxiety and pain and even joy, teaching them this too shall pass.
Yes,
this too shall pass. I saw a Instagram reel a long time ago with Tom Hanks, and he said that about joy and pain, this too shall pass. That's one thing I wish I had said when I was younger. Then you teach them that you're okay no matter what, right? You can handle anything that comes along. If the anxiety is there, if the joy is there, if the pain's there, it's all of the feelings will pass, right? And it's you're present, you're here. So that self-efficacy, understanding that you have got your own back. I wish I had learned that at a younger age. I'm 45 years old and leaning hard into that. But man, I wish my younger self knew that. So that's what I'm trying to give my kids, is a little bit more of that. So when they get into hard stuff, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That they know how to deal with it. There's a song out there by Andy Grammer called Wish You Pain. And I love that song. And he says that. He's like, I wish you feel the worst day of your life. And I wish you all this so your heart can grow. So and it's just it gives me goosebumps every time. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the time when I'm leading a meditation or a self-compassion meditation, quite often it starts with envisioning somebody else and taking away their pain and taking away their suffering. And as I'm saying that, there's times I'm like, do I really want to take away their pain? Right. Do I really want to take away their suffering? Not because I don't like them, but because it's an opportunity for growth. Exactly. You nailed it. But, ultimately, I don't want them to suffer, but I want them to have the growth that's associated with suffering. I never want to wish suffering on somebody.
No.
Another great point.
You want them to understand it passes. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's pain is a good teacher if you want it to be. If you have the proper environment in order to learn from that pain. Right. If you have the great parents that help child move through, oh, hey, I understand you're suffering right now, but it's just this too shall pass. I think is one of the best things that we've said today.
Suck. Yeah.
Right. It really makes
That's what you say. Embrace the suck.
Yeah, we had a whole episode on that. And I like what you said too earlier about more is caught than taught. And
I did. That was a life coach thing. Yeah, I learned that. I don't take ownership of that. So
true.
Good.
Yeah, but it's also tied to how we as parents or we as friends or we as colleagues, for somebody else, the term, we want to prepare the children for the road. We don't want to prepare the road for the children.
Yes.
And quite often, as parents, as friends, as colleagues, we want to smooth the road so that our friends, our children, and our colleagues don't have to experience those bumps along the road.
Right.
And even further, you've heard, we've heard of snowplow parents that like like plow over any type of challenge that the kid is facing. And in the short term, you may feel you're doing some good, but in the long term, what are you doing? So, certainly
Yeah.
things to think about.
And it affects everybody, right?
It does.
And then you create entitlement, and nobody likes that. And it's fear-based. We're all just scared.
Oh,
it's not, nobody's doing it nefariously. Like we are fear-based.
Yeah.
A lot of the decisions I've made in my life are fear-based because I'm like, I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want anybody else to be abandoned. And if you look at it, if you shift it to a love-based decision making, it's just so much different. Like it lands different. Yeah. The energy is different. Yeah.
It's like the difference between the scarcity mindset and the abundance mindset. So,
exactly. Yeah. Is that from The Gap and the Gain? Have you guys read that?
I have not read that one, but we've talked about the scarcity versus abundance mindset quite a few times.
It's a big topic for sure. Well, I mean, how else do you build character if you don't have pain, you don't suffer? And if you don't pull yourself out of that pain, I mean, like, we have, it's like, who, that's like, who are you really? Or I want to be, I mean, I love working with John, hanging out with John, being friends with John because he has his character, like he's done stuff, you know what I mean? Like he's done some of the hard stuff, and then we can have like really robust conversations on the show or, offline or whatever. And because we've done stuff and we've experienced things, and it's like, and like, I don't like to suffer. I don't like to go into pain, but I know when I'm in it, being older now, it's like, this is,
you are old.
You're so old. 51, dude. I can't believe I'm fucking 51. But it's like, being 51, it's like I've developed a lot of character, I feel, because of a lot of the suffering that I went through. And like, and that's a gift that you can, that's there if you're willing to, go through the only way out is through, but you got to go through. And it's like, it's so easy to, ask for help, or definitely ask for help is important, but like you ultimately need to pull yourself up and out. And I can only imagine it's tough to see your kids go through that, but maybe as a parent out there and not being that slow plow, flatten the path kind of parent, like how can you help your children realize that this is, an opportunity for growth? I mean, obviously they don't know what that means, but it's like, they're building character, and and when you have character, you're building more resilience, and you're going to be able to thrive, or at least get through whatever circumstance you're in, better when you have those experiences of suffering and pain, instead of just like the red carpet being rolled out for you wherever you go.
Right. That's just not life. And if you don't have bad, you don't really know good. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's something to that. There's that yin and yang, and I tell my kids that a lot because I'm like, it's bad right now, but like there's also times where it's really great. And, and again, I don't want anybody to think that I'm like, don't seek help, or, I mean, depression's a different issue. I'm just talking about the kind of bumps that happen along the way that if we don't help them navigate those bumps, they become pits that they're looking to numb. Right? Because that's where the issue that I saw happened in this story. I was like, okay, this is what I can help my kids do. And I think doing it at a very early age is advantageous. Like, I think letting them, sometimes if they stub their toe or whatever, like, okay, it's going to pass. Like, just not babying and, all the things. But as far as like seeking the help, yes, please. Like, this is not about not seeking help and not getting medicine if needed, psychological help, therapy, all of that. But this is just this is hey, there's going to be hard times. You can do this. You can do this. And teaching them.
The title of the show is navigating pain, not numbing it, not doing away with it, not avoiding it, but it's navigating it. But hey, April, this has been fascinating and very, very appreciative of you and what you've done and the education that you're getting out there through your journalism and now through coming on our show and things like this. For people who are tuned in and they want to get a hold of you, they want to read more about what it is you're doing, what's the best way? I mean, you mentioned not social media, so what's the best way? I'm not
social media, but I do have a website.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's aprilcapochinomyers.com, and I don't know if you have show notes or if you could put it in there.
Yeah, we will.
It's a long title. Yeah, and then my email address is on there.
And that's cappuccino, not spelled like the coffee. It's
not spelled like the coffee. It's Capochino. Myers.
Like phonetic.
No
phonetics.
E-M-Y-E-R-S. Yeah, it's all phonetics.
Yeah.
You can reach me there, and I have some other. I have all my published work, and then all of my like work that I've self-published. So I've published through magazines and newspapers, and then my self-published work is on there too.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I would love to talk about this with anybody. This is, again, I feel like I learned something and I want to share it because it's important. It's changed my life.
What I'd like to share before you go, I'm going to share your concluding remarks on through the Fentanyl Project. I thought I'd just read this last little excerpt that you put in there, which I think is just a great call to action for parents and anyone out there, about this crisis and about, your kids in pain. And you say, what can I'm going to get this right. Okay. So what can we do? I say we because I'm talking to every parent just like me who is trying to keep their kids safe while providing them the necessary tools to live their own lives independently and successfully. Here's what I know from researching this topic. Pain leads to addiction, and addiction continues because of pain. I can help with the pain by creating space for my family to feel it without feeling like I need to fix it. We have to let our kids feel pain. We have to stand by them and allow them to grieve and grow and feel all the things. When we don't allow them to feel things because we want to fix and protect and prevent them from being hurt, we are silently telling them it's okay to numb what is uncomfortable. We can't do that anymore. We have to show our kids that it's okay to feel their feelings. How do we do that? By feeling our feelings. Mm-hmm. We have to teach them that pain is as much a part of life as joy. We have to let our kids cry and hurt and go through some real hard stuff. That's how we learn and how we process pain. That's how we learn it's okay to feel things. We are in a culture of numbing. We have zero control over what is being dealt on the streets, and we have a lot of control of what we teach our kids to deal with when it comes to the hard knocks of life. It's time to help our kids build fortitude and inner strength by talking about their feelings. It's okay to hurt a little bit. Life hurts sometimes. It's hard. But I've learned that there is no exit ramp for the human experience.
Yeah, none.
Beautiful, April.
Yeah, thank you, April.
That was so nice. That was so nice of you to read that. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. What you've done, like, how can I not? Because this is like a big contribution to our society and to our show, and we really appreciate you being here and like sharing your passion, sharing your wisdom, and just being who you are, April. Thank you so much.
I'm a huge fan of your show. So
thank you.
Like I said, we listen to it often. We meditated most of the trip up to Tennessee. With every episode, you did a little meditation, which we love. So thank you so much for allowing me to come on and talk about this.
Well, speaking about that meditation, we're going to wrap it up here with a meditation. But before we jump into that, just want to say thank you to our audience. Thank you for our listeners, those who watched it live, those who watch it later. And if you got something out of this show, please share it with your family, your friends, your colleagues, whomever you think could get something out of it. And from this episode, I know a lot of people that could get something out of this. So please share it. And then another shameless plug. Please, follow us on social media.
I will. I'll go back on and share this one.
Please follow us on social media, give us a review, and all that happy stuff. So that said, I'll jump in and lead the closing meditation. And since we talked about pain and sitting with it, let's do a meditation on that very thing. It won't be very long, but just get comfortable. And if you're comfortable both physically and psychologically closing your eyes, then I invite you to do so. Otherwise, just soften your eyelids. And let's bring your attention to your breath. Not forcing anything, but just being aware of the rise and fall of your chest and belly. The physical sensation of breathing. Physical sensations of your breathing. And then just gently do a quick overall body scan and notice any place that you are feeling physical pain or discomfort. And if you're not feeling any pain or discomfort physically, notice what you're feeling in your heart, in your mind, in your soul that may be causing pain or discomfort emotionally. And don't feel as though you need to change these feelings, the physical or emotional feelings. Just be aware of them. Be curious about them. Sit with them. Acknowledge them. And then notice the feelings that you are having about these feelings, about this pain, about the physical and emotional pain that you're experiencing. Perhaps it feels like guilt or shame, or I should have or could have done something differently, or I should do or could do something differently. And acknowledge that you are human, and pain, both physical and emotional, are part of the human experience. And navigating the pain, both physical and emotional, allows us to feel joy. The dark allows us to see and feel the light. And as April mentioned during the show, this too shall pass. This physical and emotional pain shall pass. And now we'll just wrap it up with 2 deep cleansing breaths together. Begin by exhaling and holding empty for a second, and now deep breath in into your belly, then into your chest, holding full, and release, 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 and one more, holding empty for a second, and another deep breath in into your belly, then into your chest, hold full at the top, and relax. And as you're letting this breath out, bring some movement back into your body, wiggling your fingers, your toes, rolling your shoulders, and opening your eyes if they were closed. And that is that. April, once again, good. Thank you so much again for being here. Excellent work, and very thankful for the work that you are doing. Hang tight after we wrap it up here for a second. We'll have a couple of personal comments offline. But okay. Will, do you have anything to say to wrap it up?
No, just text MTM to 33777 if you have, and that goes for you, April. Like,
I'm gonna do that.
Show, right? I'm doing it. Okay, right. April can show you how easy it is. Just kidding. Okay, hey, but no, thank everybody. I know there's the phone, right?
There it is. Right? We're doing it live. We're doing
MTM to 33777. Thank everybody for listening. Thank you, April, for all this wonderful work and all the wisdom that you brought today. And thanks for listening. John,
until next time. Take care.
Peace, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.